Okay, strap in. So we move into relations with Spain. Now, the main thing to think about with this is what factors actually increase the tension between England and Spain. We're going to looking at 1560 to 1574. Now, obviously, there are contextual factors stemming from the previous reign. Under Mary, Spain have gained influence in England to the extent where, as we know with the loss of Calais, that in effect England has ended up, thanks to Mary's loyalty, infatuation, if you want to put it, her decision to get involved in wars essentially on behalf of Spanish interests. So there is going to be a lingering feeling amongst the councillors, amongst the government of England, that they have been used by Spain previously. Now, you might expect that Elizabeth taking over means that there is going to be an immediate sort of sharpening in hostility from Spain towards England. Now they've lost that influence, but nothing of the sort, because actually Philip put himself forward as a potential husband for Elizabeth. So actually we see almost a bit of a charm offensive, really, from Spain towards England in the initial period. And one of the outcomes of this is actually Philip was one of arguably the crucial figure in dissuading the Pope from immediately excommunicating Elizabeth as a heretic. Again, we look at this theme that, as important as religious issues are, the more traditional basics of security, of land, of influence, outrank religion in what's motivating foreign policy, because certainly in the view of Philip, it's better to have a Tudor Queen of England who's a Protestant than a Catholic Stuart Queen who is under the control or has a close relationship with the French. So this is where, the spectre, the shadow of Mary Queen of Scots is cast over England, and is something which is very significant. But at the heart of relations between England and Spain is the fact that Philip, as his position of Burgundy, means that the Netherlands is going to be the heart of relations between England and Spain. For England, the wool trade continues to be extremely important. And also the proximity of the Netherlands to England means that were there to be a Spanish invasion of England, then the Netherlands would be a very sensible launch pad for the Holy Roman Emperor. So these factors need to be taken into account. Now, if we look at 1566, there is rebellions against Philip, against Spanish influence in the Netherlands from within the Netherlands, mainly because the idea that the Netherlands is being run as a Spanish colony. And that is not its position. This is purely a consequence of it happening to be that you have this union of the Habsburgs and the monarchy of Spain. But it's seen as the Spanish undermining the importance of the nobles within the Netherlands, who had traditionally made policy, and it seems certainly to many in the Netherlands that this is the Spanish effectively looking to subjugate the Netherlands under their control, rather than viewing it as a state in its own right. England are also suspicious of this, especially when Philip actually sends the Duke of Alva with Spanish troops against a rebellion of 1567. So there is real concern here that this is a ratcheting up of the Spanish move to control the Netherlands completely, because Duke of Alva is a serious customer. He's somebody who is considered to be one of Spain's most important and most effective commanders. Therefore, the fact that he's dispatched shows the importance that the Spanish that Philip is placing in the move to bring the Netherlands under total control. Now, in terms of England's policy towards the Netherlands, it is up and down. There isn't a consistency between it. They certainly don't want the semi-independence of the Netherlands to be taken away, but they also recognise the fact that they're not really in a position to intervene. Elizabeth, unlike some of her councillors, is very clear that it is not in England's interest to get involved in what in effect is a civil war within Netherlands. Don't want to do it. Don't want to get involved in that. And, there are enough potential flashpoints between England and Spain without sort of artificially hunting one out. Now, the rebels in the Netherlands are ultimately struggling against Alva and the military occupation, as many of them see it, of Spain, of the Netherlands. But this certainly isn't something that England wants to deal with directly. But what they are happy to do, despite Elizabeth's distaste for the idea of supporting a rebellion, in this case, it's a bit different because it isn't in the same way as the idea of supporting rebels against a legitimate sovereign. And certainly Elizabeth, who's very much looking, Elizabeth's councillors who are putting a lot of pressure on her to look at getting involved, especially with the religious element of those who in the Netherlands are particularly keen to rebel and break free of Spanish control, happen to be Protestant. Maybe Elizabeth recognises that she needs to maybe show some demonstration that that she's willing to offer some support. So there is a situation in November 1568 where we actually get the pursuing by England of some Spanish ships off the coast of Devon and Cornwall. Now, these ships have that they move for, they have money that is to be going to Alva. It's effectively piracy, but it is off the coast of England, so you could argue that it's certainly part of England's right to get involved in this. And money that was destined for Alva is intercepted, and that is certainly disruptive, and that is effective. Elizabeth isn't sort of looking to stir up trouble for Spain because she wants to avoid a major conflict with Philip. So I think it's dangerous to view this as anything more than opportunistic rather than an attempt to actually recognise England as taking a major step towards getting involved, despite there is certainly arguably an overreaction from Spain. The new Spanish ambassador to England, Despers, is calling for English ships to be seized, and certainly this is then followed up by Alva. But even then, Alva is reluctant about it. I think there's a sense of can cooler heads prevail. Now it's then sort of tensions ratchet up in 1570 because Pope Pius V excommunicates Elizabeth. Now, and this wasn't something that Philip had pushed for. In fact, the excommunication coming at this time is not politically particularly helpful to England, to Spain. However, they do support the Ridolfi plot of 1571, which is an attempted rebellion against Elizabeth to get rid of her. And as a result, we see that in response to this, there's an increasing number of English-backed raids on Spanish shipping. There's also the idea on the Treaty of Blois, which mentioned earlier in terms of around that, could there be a potential English-French union against Spain? But again, this is very spurious, very unlikely to actually happen. And in 1573, we actually see a treaty between Elizabeth and Alva. So this is an attempt, and really on an economic basis, to look to get back to an healthy economic relationship. Because as we already know, English economy is struggling after the mid-Tudor crisis, and that there is a sense that England doesn't have a great deal of interest in getting involved further against Spain at this time. So, again, this is circumstances. Now, this isn't England in any way looking to get closer to Spain. It's very much an idea of let's go for superficial neutrality, avoid an open confrontation. And despite pressure from people like Leicester and Walsingham, on Elizabeth to actually start supporting William of Orange more actively. Instead, Elizabeth is content to take a more neutral approach. And that lasts right up until 1575.